What is up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in for our April meetup, I guess. Unfortunately, we can't be in person, but we'll try to do it this way. I'm just recording this video, taking care of some of the content that we were going to go over in general anyway. We got the simple team with you today. Everybody's rocking hats because we all need haircuts. So that's basically where we're all at. Hopefully, you guys are all doing well. Hopefully, you guys are getting safe. Brett's looking a little gray over there underneath his hat, but just real quick, we'll do a couple. Let's do a real quick introductions, so you know who we are, how we can help you in any way, and then we'll just kind of get into it. What we're going to cover tonight is just kind of the top 10 questions that usually wholesalers ask when they come to us, just for information or advice. So that's what we're jumping into tonight. But if you don't know me, my name is Brian. I'm the COO at Simple Wholesaling, and yeah, just really, I'm kind of the connector of the team. If you need anything at all, feel free to reach out, and I'd be more happy to help you in any way that I can. And then I take care of our team members, our systems, our process, and stuff like that. So if you have any questions, I'd definitely love to help you out with that. But Brett, how about yourself, man?
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. I'm Brett Snodgrass, and I'm the CEO of Simple Wholesaling, and been doing it for 13 years plus. And I really enjoy real estate. I enjoy people. And I just enjoy this business. So I'm here to help. And if I can help you guys in any way, shape, or form with any of these topics that we're going to go over, I would be more than happy to help you guys. So thank you. Ronnie?
Yep, I'm Ronnie, acquisition manager, wholesale liaison here with the Simple Wholesaling team. I love people, got a bunch of kids, and just can't wait to get into the content tonight. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can always email me at offers@simplequarters.com. Then we can take a look at some properties and do some problem solving. So can't wait to get into these topics tonight.
Yep, and I'm Randy, dispositions manager, Simple Wholesaling. I've been with the team for about 1.5 years now. I basically just move all the properties that we get under contract and that we close on, work with our buyers, work with other agents in the market. And if anyone just has any questions on talking to buyers, moving property, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached at randy@simplewholesaling.com.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And that's kind of with any of our, you want to contact any of us, it's basically just our first names at simplewholesaling.com. And just to recap here real quick too, if you need help with, marketing a property, your numbers, your ARVs, any of that stuff, reach out to Randy. If you need help with your talking to motivated sellers, anything on the acquisition side, Ronnie is the guy that you want to go to. If you are a wholesaler and you have a property under contract, make sure Ronnie is on your buyer's list definitely as well. If you need help with your process, your systems, your people, I'm the guy to talk to with that. If you need help just on the business side, scaling, some of the money stuff, things like that, that's Brett's your man for that stuff. So if you need help from any of us, that's who you want to go to. But guys, let's go ahead and get into the list now. So we kind of been putting out feelers of like, hey, what are some questions that you guys want to know about? And then these are just honestly too, a lot of the stuff we get asked like once a week, one of these questions in some format or anything like that. So we're just going to kind of bust through it. These questions are in no particular order or anything like that. But our first question that is probably most asked is just how do you find cash buyers, especially in a time like now where some people are really having some trouble finding some cash buyers and things, but there are a lot of different ways to go about this, finding cash buyers. But I do want to just start off before we get into how to find them. Make sure this is something that you're doing right from the start. If you're like, hey, I want to get into real estate wholesaling, that you are starting to day one, you're starting to talk, you're starting to network, and you're trying to find cash buyers. Because if you get a property under contract, you want to be able to have somebody to sell it to. So definitely cash buyers, something you want to start tackling right away. I'm going to turn it over to Randy. And Randy, you're the man when it comes to stuff like this. But what's the best way to kind of go about just building that cash buyers list, man?
Yeah, like you said, it's a never-ending list, something that you should be doing daily, especially starting out. And you should have a goal of at least adding, 3 to 5 buyers a week. That's what I would kind of use as a metric. So ways to find them. What I have here, some really easy ways in this day and age is to hop on some Facebook groups. There's a lot of investor groups on Facebook right now. You can simply join, and all you have to do is ask, are there any cash buyers in Indy right now that I can add to my buyers list? Your comments should fill up pretty quickly with emails, and that'd be a really easy way to get some, at least fill up that list with some semi-decent to good cash buyers in your area. Attend RIA events. I know right now it's kind of hard to do with everything going on, but once we all open back up, there's plenty of RIA events that are going on around the city. Attend those, network, ask questions, talk to real buyers. You want to start getting a little bit more creative, you can attend tax sales and network through those. Talk to property managers. It's always good to have one or two good property managers that you have a good relationship with, and reach out to them and ask them if their buyers or if their clients are still buying property and where they're buying. It's a really good way to get some really good cash buyers. Always have an agent in your back pocket that you're friends with. They can pull cash transactions from the MLS as far back as you want them to, and you can kind of work backwards and reach out to those people who own those properties who bought with cash. Talk to title companies, talk to hard money lenders, ask them who's buying, who you working with, who you seeing a lot, coming in and doing a lot of deals with you guys through cash. And then the last one, which you can get really kind of creative if you're a big extrovert, you see someone working on a house, like if they're flipping a house, go in and talk to the contractor. Be like, hey, I'm just kind of curious who owns this property, because I've got properties like this that need work. And I'd love to have whoever owns this property take a look at it, and maybe they'll give you their contact information. So that's kind of all I had on that, but some good ways right there to quickly fill this.
You definitely had some great tips there and stuff like that. And I always like to tell people too of don't just go after like the people that are actually buying, like the cash buyers themselves. Think about the people that work with cash buyers as well. Like you mentioned, the title companies, the lenders, things like that. So go after those people as well and build relationships and network with them. There's some great ways to go about. It's kind of funny. Just you mentioned like the Facebook groups. Like if I spend a half hour on Facebook groups, actually without even posting anything or anything like that, you basically just like follow everybody else's posts. You'll just add to your buyers list pretty easily by looking at other people's emails, other people's names, numbers, stuff like that. So definitely some good stuff there. Let's jump into number 2, and it's about lead generation. And Brett, maybe you can talk to this a little bit, because I feel like we've done just about anything under the sun. We kind of have a thing of like, hey, we want to try something new, like every quarter, basically. We always want to look for something new for lead generation. Basically just some little things that we want to get that phone ringing in any way. So you want to just touch on like maybe what we're currently doing, or just kind of even some of the things that we've done in the past?
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to lead generation, it's really all about targeting, and it's about your message, right? So I think targeting is becoming more popular every single day. If you get on Facebook, you can actually target people very specifically. So when you think about targeting, you're thinking about who would be motivated to sell their properties. And where do you find those particular people? Where do you find lists of those people? So that's kind of where I start. Who do we want to target? Typically, we're targeting motivated sellers, people that are delinquent on their taxes, people that have vacant houses, people that don't mow their grass and they have fines against their house. You can find that at the city with the Department of Code Enforcement. Most of our houses are bought from people that are maybe a certain age, right? They're looking to retire or looking to downsize. Tired landlords are another list that we're looking for. So figure out who you're wanting to target, and then you can either manually create the lists, or you can buy the lists from a website. ListSource is one. There's some other websites out there as well. But so we figure out who we want to target, and then we market to them in different ways. We use direct mail, and we craft our message by sending out a postcard or a letter to them. That's one of our biggest ones. Right now, we're also doing text messaging. So you can text skip trace, which you get the phone numbers using a very good skip tracing software, and then texting those individuals and contacting them that way. Cold calling, that's becoming really popular. It's more, I don't know what you call it, labor intensive. It doesn't cost as much money. So I think it depends on your budget, where you want to go with that. We're starting to do TV ads, which again, if your budget can allow, you can scale your business to doing TV or radio ads. There's online, Facebook, like I mentioned, targeting on Facebook and targeting on Google, right? You can pay for ads on both of those websites as well. And then there's the old-fashioned just networking and getting out there and figuring out who's got deals and how you can be an ally to them and partner with them. And that's how we do a lot of our deals. So that's pretty much what we do now. We've done other things in the past, but those are our biggest ones. Driving for dollars, I want to mention too. Driving for dollars is a huge one. Basically, where you drive around, you can take pictures of the houses and then target the houses that look like they would be motivated, right? So you're looking at a house and you think this person hasn't fixed up their house in a while. They're probably motivated to sell. Let me skip trace them and give them a call. And we actually partner with a company, not partner, but we know a company called Deal Machine, that they have a very good app on their phones that you can use to drive for dollars. And we actually, if you use the word simple, you can get a discount through them on Deal Machine as well. So.
Yeah. And talking about the list, that's one of the ones that we really build like niche lists through Deal Machine too, just by using driving for dollars, getting some people to drive around for us and things like that, and build some niche lists off of that. But you can also get some from like List Source, A to Z lists and things like that. I know one of the particular questions that we get about kind of the direct mail, because people know we've been doing that for a while, is like the postcard versus the letter. Honestly, it all depends on what the copy is. If you have really good copy on a postcard, you can get by with a postcard. If you have a really good copy on a letter, it's going to help you out, stuff like that. It kind of all depends on what other people are doing too. So if you hit like a time right where we've seen people, like we've gone into houses and they've had a stack of postcards, but we sent out a letter, so we got that one. Or other times too, where we sent out a letter and they've had a ton of letters and we sent out a postcard that was like kind of colorful or something like that, and they picked us. So it's one of those things that I can't, for Indy, it doesn't seem like postcard versus letter kind of has a big difference. What we've seen is just kind of hitting right, and you want to change it up, everything like that too. So I want to send out all letters or all postcards. I'd mix it up is definitely what we do. And I do got to send a shout out for the Deal Machine team here in Indy. Ronnie, you got your Deal Machine hat on, Randy? Yeah.
There we go.
Good stuff. So awesome. And then when it comes to number 3, where do you get contracts and stuff like that? So Ron, when you have wholesalers coming to you and they're looking to do like their first deal and they need a contract, what are some things you advise them about going about that stuff?
I advise them, because I'm now getting calls from all over the country, to talk with and this, I don't want to skip too far ahead, but talk with the title company that's in your area to see, what they have. Obviously, you can Google some things, and look around. There might be some programs that have some free paperwork, but, you still want to take that paperwork and test it and talk with the title company to make sure that, is this approved? Is this okay? Would this work at this title company in order to, get a transaction closed? So, that would be just a quick suggestion.
Yeah, definitely. And I 100% agree with that. There's some free stuff out there. You can go on Bigger Pockets. You can go on Google. You can find some, some free purchase agreements and assignment contracts and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, make sure you can use them that are free. That's perfectly fine. That's perfectly legit. But make sure you go into a title company or talk to a title company in the state that you are performing in, because they're all a little different. So a contract that works in Arizona might not work in Indy or North Carolina or something like that. So make sure you are. Just check with somebody too. But then, we'll kind of get into the whole money thing of wholesaling later. But, when they say you can do wholesaling without any money, you can definitely. But once you have some money, you want to invest a little bit, your contracts, working with title companies, this is the type of things that I do recommend kind of investing money in. Some title companies might have a whole package you can use for wholesalers that, it's been drawn up by a lawyer. It has everything that your state needs and stuff like that. So, but you can find some free stuff. A bunch of programs offer contracts. So definitely hit those up too, but make sure you just run them past a title company that you're looking to do in the state that you're looking to do business in to help you out there. So number 4, when it comes to analyzing a deal, just how do you analyze a deal and knowing your numbers? Randy, I'll kind of turn to you on this one a little bit. So like when you're talking, when we're getting a deal in, or I know you kind of see it on the dispo side and stuff too, but when a wholesaler is really just kind of looking at those numbers and knowing what numbers they should look for, what's kind of that first step they should do before they even start looking at the numbers, I guess, or anything? When it comes down to like, I guess, looking at neighborhoods and knowing areas and stuff like that, like how do you help people out? How do you advise people on just going about that part?
Yeah. So what I like to do first is just, I want to look up the neighborhood and look up the street it's on. And I'm kind of going to try to determine, okay, is this property going to be someone's going to buy it to hold on to it and just rent it out? Or are they going to want to flip this? You kind of want to get your buyer's exit strategy kind of in place so you can kind of know how to work the numbers in your head. And then once you kind of figure that information out, you can kind of look at that's when you start pulling comps and seeing if this is an actual deal or not. So if someone wants to flip the property, and you start looking at the comparables, and you're around like 50% of what that ARV is going to be, hey, you got a pretty good deal. If you want to pick up a rental type property and you're pulling the comps and they're a little higher, yeah, it could work. You just gotta kind of break it down for a rental property and find out how much it's going to rent and things like that. But pretty basic.
Yeah, so I think that's really important. Just kind of knowing what kind of a property it is and who you're going to be selling that to. So I know if it's, there's a big difference between rental properties and flip property in certain neighborhoods and stuff like that. So if you're knowing how to market it that way as well. I think just kind of a general term that you can maybe use to help yourself out a little bit is, your buyers usually want to go to buy something around 70% of the ARV after you take off the repair value, or after you take off those costs for the repair and stuff like that. So if they want to be about 70%, you want to be under that. So I guess I'll kind of throw in a mistake that I maybe see some wholesalers making. They kind of just if a buyer wants $100,000 for it, they just try to, knock them down as much as they can and try to get it maybe at $80,000. And then they just jump, they just put their price out there for another $30,000 trying to hit a home run every deal. So know your numbers going into the deal. Not every deal is a good wholesale deal and things like that. So kind of knowing your numbers, knowing where you need to be, like Randy said, knowing the difference between what the rental comps are, what the, the ARV and stuff like that is, and just knowing your numbers that way can really help out. So
yeah, real quick, Brian, I think like you said, the mistake that people make is they think they have a good wholesale deal when they have their contract at 75% of that ARV. But you need to remember, you gotta take that and then subtract whatever that investor is going to put into that property, mm-hmm. and then subtract what you want to make on that deal. That's when you have a good deal. So it's not, you as the wholesaler don't want to end up at that 75% ARV. You want to be well below that. Right. So it gives everyone a spread. So I think that's just a mistake. I've made that mistake before, and couldn't sell the house.
And then kind of going back to the neighborhoods and stuff too, knowing like you take Indy, for example, here, something that is Martindale Brightwood is not going to be the same as, Fountain Square and stuff like that. So, or even on the other side of the train tracks from Fountain Square, something like that, they're not the same. So kind of knowing those neighborhoods, knowing those areas. And if you are local, I just 100% just in part of knowing your numbers and knowing that stuff, get out and drive the city, know what's going on, things. If you're not local, do some virtual driving and stuff like that on Google, kind of, do some things like that just to understand what's going on in the city a little bit more, looking at the comps of where they're going. So Randy, on that though, like if you, let's say, so I know you, myself, and Brett, we are agents, so we have access to the MLS and things. What are some things people could do maybe if they do not have access to the MLS?
Are you asking as far as like when you're selling,
or maybe just even just looking for when they're looking to find comps or anything like that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you can, I think what everyone does is they always go to Zillow. So online tools, Zillow, realtor.com, you can do that. I would always I just always stress, have an agent friend. I know if you don't have access to the MLS, just have someone who can pull comps for you. Just say, hey, I'll give you $20 every time I need you to pull some good comps for me. That's just the best tool to have, because those are the best comparables that you're going to see. When you're trying to also do ARV, you're trying to pull comps for that property you're looking to sell, try and use 3 to 5 sold comps. And I'm sorry, my daughter's knocking on my door.
Brett was wondering if it was one of his kids.
That's about kids looking up.
So yeah, try to find 3 to 5 good solid comps, and stay within the neighborhood. Don't cross railroads, rivers, major highways or streets, because that's going to separate your neighborhoods there. So.
Yeah. So one of the things I really recommend, and maybe this is the teacher kind of coming out in me, is like when you're trying to figure out what that ARV is, or trying to figure out what those comps are and things like that. Like I would really recommend like sitting down and explaining it to somebody to make sure it makes sense of how you're explaining it. So if you're able to explain it, what you're doing, that's legit. It makes sense to you then. So this might be kind of a good like exercise to do, of just like, sitting down with your girlfriend or your wife or husband or whoever and just saying like, hey, let me explain to you how I'm doing this. If it makes sense to you of how you're doing it, then that process just becomes a little bit better for you. So I'm going to jump down here to number 7 real quick, because it kind of falls into just what we're talking about right now and stuff like that. And maybe Ronnie, you can get a little assist to this as well. just on when you're trying to figure out like the estimate on like rents and ARVs and stuff like that. When wholesalers come to you and are asking those types of things, like how are you helping them out, or what are some advice that you're kind of giving to them on that stuff?
One of the things that we've kind of talked about, and I had this conversation today, was that, and so we have. I advise them to use Redfin, also maybe even PropStream, just to kind of see what the suggested rents are and what's available there, because you can still toggle those, to kind of pull that information within a quarter to a half mile to see what's going on there. And then again, when it comes to estimating the ARV, one of the things we kind of do is, we throw out the highest of what's sold, throw out the lowest, and then kind of figure out what is really going on in the meat and potatoes. We had a property today that was like one property sold for like 90,000, then a block down sold 15,000, and we both were like, what? Well, what is it? What is ARV? And as we did a little more digging, we were able to kind of figure out, okay, well, no to throw those out, but there were some other comps in the area that allowed us to kind of get more in the middle. So you just have to kind of just use all your resources. I even have one wholesaler that, they get the area, but they use it in Zillow, they run it in Redfin, and then they kind of just, take the average to see, okay, well, what's really happening again, but this is what has sold, not what's pending, or not what's showing marketed because it hasn't sold yet. So
yeah, that's really good advice right there. Like you said, taking like Zillow and Redfin, like the two of them together, like maybe not using one, but also not using like 5 of them. Like just pick 2 that you're used to, 2 that you like, and kind of find the average of those. You're doing rental comps, Rent-O-Meter is kind of a good one that we kind of reference out there every now and then and stuff. It's not, it's not perfect, it's not 100% accurate, but it's a good gauge of where you can be for that type of thing too. So. I will say one other thing too with ARV. I think a lot of wholesalers maybe get stuck on ARV if you're having trouble with that, or even your buyers are saying, "Oh, your ARV's off," or anything like that. Go back to just the cash deals that are happening. Knowing that what properties are selling for cash in a certain area is almost better than being able to calculate an ARV. If you know that properties for cash, same bedrooms, bathrooms, or about the same bedrooms and bathrooms are selling for in between $30,000 and $40,000, that's where you're gonna want to buy it underneath that, because that's where your buyers are gonna want to be. So more than likely your buyers are looking at what the cash transactions are around there too. So don't get hung up on ARV if you're having trouble with it or don't have the resources for it. Look for the cash deals as well, which another thing that comes back to what Randy's saying. Finding an agent friend to be able to pull those cash deals for you and help you out as well. So let's jump back up here to a good question of what happens if you can't find a buyer. So you get a property under contract, you feel like your price is right, you've done all your marketing, stuff like that, and all of a sudden you can't find a buyer for it. What are you going to do in that situation? And I always come back to it with that is remember that your reputation is everything. I would try not to go off on a little tangent here just because I always see people talking about this and stuff, but make sure that, I was on a just a webinar the other day, and they threw out a question of like, hey, what's the average or how many deals are you closing that you get under contract? And somebody like threw out there like 10%, 1 out of every 10. Like that's ridiculous. Like that's just crazy. And I understand there's people that are doing that. They're probably the people that I necessarily might not want to do business with, but that person is more than likely trying to hit a home run on every single deal. So be careful with that. Remember that your reputation is everything, especially if you're acting in a specific area. So if you get something under contract, remember that you're really working with the livelihood of that homeowner. Okay, they need to move, they need to sell that property, they need the cash, they have a house situation, whatever it may be. So remember to keep your reputation intact when it comes down to that. So if you are in a situation where you get a property under contract, you need to do everything in your power to move that property. Okay. Sometimes that might mean, hey, maybe you don't make any money. Maybe you might even lose a little bit on some deals. Okay. That stuff happens. But if you reach all your resources, you have, tried to find a buyer, you can't find one. Go back to what else do you know? Are there any like bigger wholesalers or more experienced wholesalers, other wholesalers, your competition, whoever it is, would they buy that property for what you have it under contract at? At least you can break even and that homeowner gets what you promised them that you would do. That's kind of the main thing there. If you need to too, it's kind of a tough spot. It's a tough conversation, but going back and telling that homeowner, hey, you know what? I've really tried. I've tried for, a month now to sell your property at $60,000. It needs a little bit more work than what we originally thought, what we originally saw. Is there any way that you would renegotiate with me? I think I can sell it for, $55,000, but I can't get 60 out of it. So go back and renegotiating is an option too. Doing that over and over again is kind of, may hurt your reputation. If you're good at it and you have that conversation, you build your rapport, it makes it a little bit easier and stuff too. But just when it comes down to making sure that you can find that buyer, just you want to exhaust every single resource that you can to help that homeowner out and promise to do what you said you were going to. So guys, you have anything else to add on top of that or anything?
No, I think you pretty much hit it there. Yeah. So I was just, what I have here, you can always, like you said, go back and renegotiate with your seller. First, look at your assignment fee. Make sure you're not, overshooting the moon there and trying to get rich overnight. But look at that first. Go back and renegotiate with your seller. But it's kind of like what you said, like if you're using the right words and you're positioning yourself from the beginning of what your intentions are with that seller and what you're looking to do, it shouldn't hurt your reputation. Because they know what you're trying to do. They know that you're trying to wholesale their property to your network of buyers. Keep it transparent and open. You shouldn't have a problem doing that, and you should keep your reputation just fine. And then also you can extend the purchase agreement with them to give you another 45 days to find a buyer. I've done that before and it seems to work.
So it's kind of funny. I've seen this before of some wholesalers that, I always say like, hey, go to somebody else, go to your, like, there's times that we might need to go to one of our competition, say, hey, can you take this for this price? We're breaking even on it. Here's what we have it for. Here's everything I have. And we need help with it. And that's okay. You need to have good good rapport with your competition as well to be able to do that. And they do the same thing with us. And that happens. But I've seen some wholesalers would be like, no, I won't let you have it because I don't want to make less than $3,000 on this. So you're going to hurt your reputation over not making $3,000 or $1,000 or whatever it may be. So I always like the adage of, what is it? Half of a grape or half of a watermelon is better than no grape at all, or something like that. So I messed it up, Randy. I've been saying it for the last week. I messed it up. So
I thought it was just half of a watermelon is better than half of a grape.
Yeah. So it is. So it's better, it's better to, kind of have a little bit than nothing at all. So it's basically what we're saying here. So, Brett.
I think it's one in the hand is better than two in the bush.
I've never understood that one.
Yeah, that one definitely doesn't make sense.
So, all right, cool. Let's go ahead and move on to the list then. So how about number 6? So when you are wholesaling, do you need any money? And then if you do, where are we going to find that money? So let's just start with that first part of it. Brett, I'll kind of reach out to you on this one. So if you, like, as a wholesaler, are you going to need money if you are wholesaling? We'll start off with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really smart to start off with a budget. It's really smart to start off with some money because you have to build traction. You have to build momentum. In order to do that, you have to get leads, and typically leads take some sort of money. Now, there's some lead generation sources that are cheaper, right? You can get the list, you can manually create the list by yourself, and you can text them or cold call them, and it doesn't take a lot of money. But most of the lead generation sources do take money, right? So I think, you don't have to start off with a lot of money. And people say, how much money should you start off with? When I got my first deal, I think I had about $5,000, and maybe that's more than what you have. Maybe it's less, but that's typically what I started, and that's what I experienced with. And I think that can at least get you going. I think you can start off with less than that, but I think that it does take some sort of money. We do take down our property, so it takes a lot of money for us to run our business. But if you're just assigning contracts, the biggest piece is really just the marketing budget and just to get you going. But most of it, and I would just recommend just try the cheap ways first to get some traction, get some momentum. And that's where everybody starts. You don't have to go out and send out 20,000 postcards like we do sometimes in a month, right? Just start off small and get that first win under your belt and get the momentum. And I don't know. So
yeah, I think it's just kind of coming back to can you do it with no money? Yeah, I think yes you can. But if you want to scale, if you want to make it your life, if you want to make it your business, so like I think you're going to need to put money into it at some point. So just prepare for that. And as you're getting 1 or 2 deals under your belt and stuff like that, make sure you're kind of saving some of that so you can budget for it. You can go with that. Also too, if you don't have any money and you're working up to that first deal, there's some other things that you can do, as far as like, just bird dogging, co-wholesaling, things like that. So using some other people's monies or some, people that can help you along the way, doing that as well if you don't necessarily have the money yourself to put into things as well. So, Brett, if some people, if you're wholesaling, you might need some money. I guess on some of this, it might be like transactional funding. If you're doing it, we'll get into assignments, double closing, some things like that. But if you do need money to make a transaction or anything like that, what are some good ways to go about finding some transactional funding, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's companies out there that you can look up transactional funding and referrals, but I would just highly recommend networking, going to the meetups, going to the RIAs, and just putting yourself out there. And I remember when I would go to the RIAs, they had this one spot where they would give you the microphone and you can talk about a deal. And I remember I would talk about a deal, but then after the deal, I would always say, hey, we're also looking for people that are looking to passively invest with our company. And I think we probably got 2 or 3 people come up that I still actually work with today. And this is 5, 6 years later, that are still a main source of, of our revenue just because I said one word. So don't ever underestimate the power of just putting yourself out there, just letting people know what you do. And really it's just about asking questions. One of my favorite questions is I ask people, is what do you invest in, right? Because typically everyone invests in something. We either invest, I mean, a lot of people have retirement accounts, and a lot of people invest in the stock market or money market account or CDs or private lending. And so people invest in something. And I always say, hey, and I'm really just interested, what do you invest in? And if they say like a CD, but I'm not, thrilled about what I'm getting like 1% rate or something like that, then if the door opened, then I tell them, well, we've been able to give people more than that, like, and just talk from there. And if the answer is no, then that's totally fine. But at least I open up the door and just kind of ask them questions about what they're doing and see if it fits. If it doesn't, then we go from there. But I think networking, putting yourself out there, starting with, your sphere of influence. Who do you know that invests, which is pretty much everyone, and just kind of starting from there, and then meeting people at the meetups as well.
So awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. We're going to jump down here to number 8 then. So what should you be looking for in a title company? Number one, I think whenever I'm looking for, what do I look for in anybody that I work with, is one that's friendly, can communicate, and that I like, honestly. So I want people that I'm going to look forward to kind of working with, that interacting with and stuff like that. So they communicate regularly and things. But when you get into the main part of what you're looking for in a title company, as far as wholesaling, you want to make sure that they understand what an assignment contract is, what a double closing is, those types of things. So you want to make sure that they understand how to do that. They've done those before, because that's what you're going to be giving them. That's the type of work that you're going to be doing. So if you're just, you're using like the same title companies maybe all of your retail buddies work with or something like that, they might not necessarily know how to do assignments, how to do double closings and things like that. So those are things you definitely want to be looking at and paying attention to. But then also just kind of, what is their process? What are all the fees that they charge for certain things? Making sure you understand that. I also know when I look for a title company, I'm going to look for somebody that doesn't like hesitate away from like educating me if I need to. If you can give them a call and they'll sit down with you, that's who you want to work with. If you call somebody and say, hey, can I come in and understand your process and just kind of learn more about you, and they say, hey, no, we're too busy to have anybody do that, like, they're probably not going to have time to help you along the way. So just by reaching out and saying like, hey, I'm new to this, I'm looking to find a title company to work with as I'm doing, some assignment contracts and just do some real estate wholesaling, find somebody that'll sit down with you and kind of walk you through it, help you out. I know some title companies around town too definitely do some classes and things, to sit down and like, so you can understand like Title 101 and those types of things. That stuff's important. So if a title company is going to be forward and like just helping you educate yourself on that type of stuff, it's going to help you be able to educate your buyer or educate your sellers and your buyers through that process as well. So those are the types of things that I look for. You guys have anything else to add kind of in that, whether they're just working with a title company or what they should look for in their title companies?
One thing I wanted to touch on is make sure, because as you build your buyers, you're gonna have some out-of-state guys and women who buy homes. Have a title company that's good at doing email closings or anything remote like that. that'll go a long way, and it'll save your buyer a lot of headache if the title company's really good at doing closings like that.
Yeah. So definitely. And jumping into number 9 here. So what is the difference between assignments and double closings? And then when should you do them? I have a typo. I put then instead of them. I'm going to erase my whole board and start over now. So, but assignments versus double closing. So basically what you're doing when you're talking about wholesaling, when you're talking about wholesaling a property, what you're doing is you're getting that property under contract at a certain price. And then you now have the right to either buy that price, or even you can sell your right to buy that price. And that would be basically what that wholesaling part is. So if you take you get a property under contract and you basically assign that contract to somebody else, that could be an assignment that you're sending over to, you're assigning that contract to a buyer. So they have that the right to be able to buy that as well. So you can do that one of 2 different ways. Basically, you can just do an assignment contract and give them that right and send that over to the title company. And then that way, kind of your end buyer is going to kind of see what your assignment fee is and stuff like that. Another way would be basically where you have 2 different transactions. You have 2 different purchase agreements. So you get under contract with the seller, and then you also get under contract a purchase agreement with the buyer as well. So there's 2 different transactions, 2 different paperwork, 2 different contracts going on there. When should you do them? Basically, so this is kind of a general rule of thumb, and this is what a lot of people say. You can take this for what it is. It all comes down to your preference. And this comes back to kind of what we were talking about before. Do you have money? If you're doing some double closings, you might not have money on the other end. If you're not always able to use kind of your end buyer's money, you can do that as well. But a lot of times you might have to have some of your own money to be able to do that double closing things. But a lot of people say if you have an assignment fee that's less than $10,000, you can do an assignment. Generally people aren't going to say anything about it if your assignment fee is, $6,000, $7,000, whatever it may be. All depends on kind of how you go about it. If you have a transaction that's more than $10,000, or assignment fee is more than $10,000, maybe you could do an assignment or a double closing there. That's what a lot of people say. I always like to just come back to is I'd like to be honest and transparent with everything that I'm doing, so everybody knows kind of what's going on with the transaction, stuff like that. That end buyer knows, like, hey, I do have this under contract. I'm going to assign it to you. So there's going to be, I am going to make money on this. The seller knows I'm making money on it as well. So Brett, do you have any insights on that? Just kind of, you've kind of done a little bit of everything there. And when people are kind of, people are always asked this question, and they're always like, hey, should I assign this or double close it when I'm selling it to you guys? So we buy a lot of deals from other wholesalers. I'm always like, I don't care. Whatever you want to do. I have no problem seeing what your assignment fee is. Like, it is what it is. I'm going to get the deal under contract with how we want to do it. But do you have any advice on that?
Yeah. Most wholesalers assign. I would just say out of all the deals that we buy from wholesalers, I would say 90% of them assign the deals. So that's kind of the majority, because it doesn't cost them any money and it's less complicated, right? All they do is they assign that contract to us. They get their fee. They don't have to pay any closing costs. They don't have to actually sign any documents. Like, it's pretty simple. So the assignment is the simplest way to go. I suggest if you're making a certain amount of money and it could make people feel uncomfortable, then maybe that's when you would double close. And I don't know what that amount is. Maybe it's $10,000 or more. That's kind of a general rule of thumb that I've seen. But again, I mean, we bought assignments with people making $12,000 before, and it doesn't make us feel uncomfortable that much. But but so I still have seen that. So if I was just starting out, I would do more assignments. It is the simplest way to do the deals, unless you're making, X amount of dollars, which is a large amount of money.
I would definitely recommend that. Starting out with assignments, get that process down, get your system down, and then if you're able to scale, you're doing more deals and stuff like that. You kind of understand the business a little bit more. Doing some double closings could benefit you in some ways as well, because you might be able to put a little bit more of a spread on there and not have to worry about it and stuff. So more likely your buyer's going to know what you made on anyway, because we look it up later anyway. If you double close with us, we're gonna see it in the MLS, and we're gonna know what you make anyway. But so that's just something. So Ronnie, when you have wholesalers kind of coming to you and kind of like, you might get an assignment contract from them, do any of them are like, oh, can I let you know my assignment fee? Do they hesitate with that, or what's some advice you have on that part of it?
The transparency is key. I mean, but they also know that we're a safe place. We don't care. I mean, I've signed assignments $15,000 and $500 before in the same day. But I just advise again, whatever you're comfortable with. If you have a general rule of thumb, because when I see it, I'm just like, hey, well, I see you got a good deal because it made sense for me to still buy it at that price. My biggest thing is that I don't like when it comes to assignment fees, or maybe is after we have an assignment, we sent everything to title. And then because you have a secured buyer, that you go back and renegotiate with the seller, to get them down a little bit lower, to get more of the assignment, to get more cash in your pocket. And I feel like that is something that I don't like when it comes to people being a little extra greedy. But, assignment, double close, whatever you feel is best for you. But again, the simplest way, easiest way, just assign it, move on.
Yeah. So, and honestly too, I kind of back to is if your buyer asks to see your assignment contract, because I think that's a legitimate question anymore, because there's been a lot of people that are trying to sell properties that they don't have it under contract yet and stuff like that. So if your buyer's like, hey, can I see your assignment contract? I honestly have no problem. At least show them the contract. You want to block out the price and show it to them that way. If they fuss about it, you want to show them the price for that, that's fine. But don't hesitate if somebody asks you to see your assignment or your contract, because that's a legitimate question right now, because we got a lot of people trying to sell property that they don't have their contract and don't have a right to. So just a little tip on that. So, all right, fellas, number 10 down to the last one. So how do you effectively talk to motivated sellers? So this is a good question right here. I think it's something that sometimes a lot of times gets glossed over. We're always talking about lead generation and then getting that property, getting the contract part of it, and then being able to sell it and stuff like that. So I think, but where the deal exists, the main thing of what you need to do is you need to effectively be able to talk to motivated sellers, build a rapport with them, and make sure you get that property under contract for what you want, and then know everything about that property as well. So some of the things you're going to want to do with that is you're going to want to set up that call. So when they first call, you want to set it up. You want to let them know who you are, what you're doing, what your intentions are, and then let them know how you do it in a brief statement. Then you want to basically build rapport with them, find out about the property, those types of things. Later down the road, you're going to figure out why they're considering selling that property, what that motivation is. Are there any deal killers going on that could possibly just kill that deal as you get it further down the road, and then being able to close that out and stuff, being able to get it on that contract. But Ronnie's the best of all of us at this. See, we always kind of just lean to him on this. Ronnie, how do you help us? You make this call for us and stuff like that. So, but Ronnie, what's some advice you kind of have when they're going about just talking to motivated sellers, when they're setting up the call, building a rapport with them, things like that? What's some insights you have on that, brother?
Yep. It's okay to have a script. It really is okay. If you're just not starting off, it's okay to have a script, even down to, what you're going to say when they pick up the phone. Because honestly, if it's your first couple of times of actually putting out mailers or a bandit sign and someone's calling you, you're kind of freaking out oh, wait, it worked. So you're kind of working through that excitement, of what's going on. So having a script, to kind of help settle you and give you a guide of what you need to do, that's really great. Again, just making sure you have the basic information. Make sure they know who you are, that you introduce yourself. They know your name. Make sure you get their name. On the front end of that, making sure that you're saying their name, establishing that relationship, that rapport, and then above that, listening to what they are saying and telling you about that house. You want to ask good questions, how questions, when questions, what questions, in order to get them to springboard to tell you information about that house, what's going on. And then also, not being afraid, as Brian kind of alluded to ask about deal killers. I understand you have this going on with this house. I understand you have this pain point and things like that. So that they have motivation, which is good. But then you also want to make sure that you set in their mind, have them kind of role play, what does the solution look like for you? Kind of helping them solve their problems and helping both you guys get on the same page in order to get this thing home. So, that allows them to partner with you. And it's really good. I need to talk to my wife, because my wife needs to know, because I'm telling you, I've had deals held up because the wife was not on board. Even though his name is on the title, she's a real decision maker. So you want to make sure that you have all that information anybody needs to know. Even, a lot of times for the people they're dealing with, maybe they're baby boomers and someone has died. So maybe there's, a couple of siblings that, we need to get everybody to sign documents and things like that. But just knowing all of those little landmines that can kind of hold things up and making sure that we know those things are great. And then even with walkthroughs now, just, getting pictures virtually, because think that's a thing now. So, make sure they know how to walk through and do that, or if it's vacant, walking through it and getting those pictures done. But just talking with them, building rapport, actively listening, catching those little details. If they have a dog or kids or something that stands out, just to kind of, make you even more personal. But that's what you really want to do. Just figure out those how questions, why questions, and then again, what the perfect scenario looking like once we have agreed to terms and agreed to price.
So awesome stuff, guys. So really appreciate this. So this is kind of our list. We said like top 10 questions. We were supposed to do roundtables tonight. We can't do roundtables because we can't be around each other and stuff like that. So we thought this might help you guys out as well. But as we wrap up here, Randy, do you have any just kind of little last tip, any last word of advice, just people that are starting out in their wholesaling ventures?
Yeah, something I tell everyone who's always starting out, be intentional with getting started quickly, or just make a timeline of when you want to get that first deal. Put a deadline on it. That's going to cause you to work harder and work smarter. But put a deadline on everything if you're trying to get your first deal, or if you're trying to scale. Just have some sort of timeline and work on that.
Awesome. Ronnie, how about you, man?
Network. I don't care what it is. Phone calls, emails, chats, network. That is going to help you a lot.
Awesome. Mr. Snodgrass, how about yourself?
I think so. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately. And I listened to a lot of John Maxwell lately, and he talks about leaders, and he said, be the leader that you want to see in your life, right? So I would just really highly recommend when you're really thinking about doing this business, if you're an investor or a wholesaler, be the wholesaler that you would love to see send you a deal, right? How would you want that deal to come to you? You be that person to present it to them and have the character in that way, right? So I would just highly recommend, hopefully our team is I hopefully, with all that said, we're the people to interact with. So I don't know if that makes any sense. Probably doesn't, but be the wholesaler that you want to see in your life.
No, I love it, man. That's great. And just my last little tip is just continually educate yourself. So especially if you're getting started, there's a ton of education out there. There's free education out there, whether it's from us, whether it's just on YouTube or a lot of the other people, a lot of other wholesalers in the nation. There's a lot of content out there, especially right now because everybody's doing a lot of stuff virtually. So always continue to educate yourself, whether it's reading books, podcasts, listening to things, just do all that stuff. Make sure you're intentional about that education and never stop doing it because we're continually doing it as well. So Ronnie bought over 200 deals last year. I'm always like, hey, how are you educating yourself? How are you improving yourself? You need to continue to do that. So just keep that in mind. If there's anything at all that the whole Simple Wholesaling team can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out to us in any way. So we got Brett, Ronnie, Randy, or Brian at simplewholesaling.com. We got a couple other team members too that are on here. They're more than happy to help you guys out with anything you need. So thanks a lot. Hopefully in May, maybe we'll see you in person down at the Cyria building. Maybe not. We might be on video again, but hopefully we can figure it out. So later, guys.